I think the balance lies between cannabis and culinary with elation of sensory experiences. Whether you're hearing something, you're tasting something, that sensation is heightened through cannabis. That, to me, is where the magic lies. In that thin line is where you can go from having something that's so rudimentary to something spectacular that has never been experienced before. I think it would be easier to explain the hurdles that I haven't had to jump by combining cannabis and the culinary world. But it's been a nightmare at times. It's been so volatile in so many different directions between family and friends and the culinary world and just the professional world in general. People are still calling me the weed chef. It just doesn't matter to some people because all they see is a stigma.
How did I first hear about the Herbal Chef? You know, when I first saw it, it seemed like this kind of high-end, kind of almost exclusive thing. And I saw through the layers an understanding that ran so much deeper than just kind of the superficial presentation of great exotic food. That's what I admire the most about it. It's transforming people's understanding of themselves through food and through cannabis and through connectivity with other people. And to not only just taste food, but to experience food and to connect with people around you in such a rich way, but in such a responsible and measured approach, being sensitive to local context and culture and cuisine.
Sometimes we forget that edibles can also be really enjoyable, and he's making that an art in its own. So I think the fact that he's making such high quality, unique food and combining that with cannabis, bringing that into the fold, it's an incredible, incredible talent.
Food is something that is universal. It brings people together, and we know that. It brings food, family. When you can present that experience and introduce cannabis into it, I think it flips a switch in people where they start to think, well, this isn't a weird thing, right? This is like an ingredient in our lives as opposed to something that's altering our lives. And that's an important thing for people to understand, to combine it with something that is universal. I think it's a really wonderful thing.
The easiest way for me to explain why I became a chef was to understand how happy food makes people. And with that understanding, it was a very clear choice of what I wanted out of life. I was pre-med before that, and I wanted to help people, I wanted to heal. And instead of doing a Band-Aid, now I'm doing preventative medicine. The first defense that you put into your body is with food. So to understand that really helps you put into perspective the medicinal side of all of this, even if we're not talking about cannabis, just food in general and how important it is to understand what nutrition means to humans.
We actually have worked with a lady by the name of Heidi Bowen in Tacoma, and she taught us a lot about, you know, conservation and how to pick the berries and how much to pick out of each bush and to make sure that you're leaving enough for animals and birds that, you know, need it. We always want to like practice that and teach that whenever we're doing this, so people don't think that they can just go in and completely ravage an area where, you know, it then becomes a problem for the area around it to replenish.
Totally. And like along with that is you want to celebrate where you are.
Absolutely.
You want to like eat of the terroir. You
Yes.
want to experience that. In that celebration, you don't want to be like oppressing other creatures.
Absolutely. It's almost like nature has been doing this forever.
Yeah. Almost.
Go figure.
So for this guy, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Got 10. How many should we pick if we're picking 10%?
One then.
1.
Yeah.
In this situation, I would pick 2.
Yeah.
Because it looks pretty healthy. So you want to get a nice young one that isn't taller than 3 inches.
This
nice
guy
and
looks
juicy.
pretty. This guy looks juicy.
Yeah. Pick a nice juicy one. And then right at the base, perfect.
And look at these. These are berries from last year that have since fermented. And I know this is gonna sound really weird, but they taste like almost like a cross between tomatoes, a fermented tomato, and In-N-Out special sauce. So maybe we're onto something here. It's just incredible to be out here. Everything about how serene this is and how beautiful it is magical. I'm really grateful to be here and to have a guide like Camille who's extremely knowledgeable in what everything is and what's edible first and foremost. The reason that we're doing this is essentially to connect people with the food that they're eating. Younger generations have lost sight of where their food comes from, and so what we're trying to do is really hone in on the local area, what's available here, and then go the extra mile and actually get it ourselves so that we can tell the story of, look, that this is all around you, you just have to look for it. And there's abundance everywhere around you in your life, and you just have to look for it and be receptive to it. So we just drove a couple hours now from up north Squamish to now Crescent Beach, and we're getting some nettles for one of our amuse-bouche. But these stinging nettles are super difficult to pick because you have to have gloves and you have to have the proper equipment, otherwise they sting like a motherfucker.
So this is actually a super pungent green. It's got both the flavors of mustard and garlic in it, and it's great in things like salsa verde. Really a fun one.
Whoa.
Right?
Yeah. Whoa. That's pretty complex for...
right?
Yeah.
What we're trying to do and how we're trying to evoke change is through the culinary world. And the one thing that we're trying to teach right now is that cannabis can be used in a multitude of ways. Then comes the implication of putting your health back in your own hands, eating better food, eating cleaner, eating organic, eating food that makes you feel good. And then with that comes sustainable agriculture and sustainable fishing, sustainable ways of utilizing the world around you. It's important to understand your own health. And then that just leads into step by step by step into what I think the bigger mission of the Herbal Chef is, which is to create positivity through food and understanding sustainability through agriculture.
Get going like really quick, we can probably be there in like 40 minutes and then back out fishing in 20 minutes. And my other question is for your prawns, are you
seal fucking took them.
Fuck, really? Yeah. We gotta head back. There you go, guys. That's all we got left.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think I'd feed like half
that probably would have been about that big. Just
oh!
It would have been legal for sure. 100%.
Well, on to the next
dude.
Damn. How big was the fish you caught? Literally.
So we've been out since 6:30 or 7:30 a.m. and it's about noon, 12:30 right now. We had one on the line, but the seal came and snagged it.
which is unfortunate for us. But
happens, unfortunately.
so we're still fishless, and we don't know about the crab or prawn situation yet. So as of right now, we can't throw our dinner, which is alarming, but we'll figure it out. Might be a vegetarian dinner, yeah. I think it's really interesting because we're out here in Canada and we're foraging and we're fishing and we're, you know, hands and feet on the ground to pick our ingredients. And as a team, we may not get to know all 120 people that we're cooking for. However, we can get to know the land and we can get to know what Canada is about, and Vancouver specifically. To get to know the land is the same as getting to know the people, because these are the people that create that land and that make this land special. For sustainability in fishing is?
If you're asking me about true opinion, I think if you want to go out and eat a salmon, I'd like to see people out catching it themselves.
Yeah.
So many people are used to just going to the store and just buying whatever, and like instead of
disconnect.
There's a massive disconnect.
Yeah.
Like we're sitting outside a city of 3 million people, and they don't realize that you got salmon on your doorstep.
So we didn't catch much salmon today. Actually, we didn't catch any salmon today. But that's kind of how things go, is when you take the risk, there's a lot of uncertainty involved. But what we did walk away with is a ton of fresh spot prawns, as well as a ton of Dungeness crab. So that means that we're still going to be able to use a lot of what we caught in the dinner, and we have now only one dish to kind of remake and make over and find what we can do with what we caught. So overall, really solid day. We'll have quite a feast.
I get this question a lot. Who's doing what you're doing? And it's really tough for me to say this answer and not sound narcissistic, but I'm gonna go ahead and put that out there anyways. Truthfully, I don't think there's anyone that is taking it as seriously as we do, that has the standard of operations that we do, that has the team that we do, and that has the research to back it all up. The activism that goes with that, the countless hours spent in city council lobbying for the correct and fair legislation, the work that we do internationally as well as all over the US. For instance, people that have been locked in jail for 20 years for nonviolent marijuana possession crimes, which is ridiculous. Like, there's lives being ruined over a plant. The cannabis industry as a whole has such an important place in history to play, and that's why I take this so seriously. We do all of that because we genuinely care about the entire industry. There's a lot of things that people don't really see behind the scenes, and that's why we try and do things like this, so that we can show people that this isn't your normal, you know, throwing weed in a pan. See, cooking doesn't necessarily need to mean fine dining. Fine dining to me is creative. It really creates an experience. It's like painting a picture. There's, you know, tide and ebb and flow, and it's like creating music. There's not just a chorus in the song or in the dish. It's an entire melody. That, I think, is why I'm so attracted to fine dining, is because it takes me out of this box, and then I get to create something for people that they've never had before. What we're doing to dismantle misconceptions and myths and shedding more of a positive light on cannabis is first starting with education of dosing and why that's important, and not dosing everything at 100 milligrams because 99% of the population cannot handle that. And there's so many people over and over and over where they are pushing that they have to be high dose edibles. You have to hit the joint when it's passed to you. There's all these like little rules in this, and I don't buy into that, because ultimately it's about what you feel comfortable with. To give people the power of choosing is really important. You have to take it upon yourself to learn this plant. There's no reason to skip ahead or go faster. And that's what we try and instill in everybody is, hey, go at your own pace. This is okay. Even if you don't want any, come and enjoy the meal.
Vancouver has a rich, rich cannabis history. I mean, you look at the number of producers that are on the West Coast. You look at the passion and purpose and sacrifice people have made for decades to perpetuate this industry forward. Vancouver is, the epicenter of that in a lot of ways in Canada. We can really be responsive to this huge need that's going to come through a legal, regulated market, quality product, for purpose and passion behind the product and the people and the stories. And that's what breaks down barriers and allows people to move past the stigma and look at the science, look at the senses.
The goal is to show people that this is what a regulated market can look like, and these are what standards can be like for restaurants, on-site consumption, and events. What we're trying to do is set a precedent and set a standard so that people have something to follow. We want to make sure that what we're bringing to the table is something so crisp and clean that people want to use this model and standard.
I don't think cannabis has always been presented in the best light. I think it was very widely misunderstood for a long time. And I think Chris is helping to reconfigure how our brain works with cannabis and to help normalize it and literally put it on the table as a meal for you and your loved ones and people you enjoy spending time with.
If governments could take the whole message that the Herbal Chef is setting, it's not just about the fact that it's a powerful therapy and a pharmaceutical, but also that it's delicious, that there's flavors and smells and experiences in it that are beyond just therapy and also enjoyment and pleasure. It would be wonderful if our government could take that direction with it.
I think that's what some people sort of forget about cannabis is that, yes, there's these molecules that produce a psychotropic effect, but there's also a whole bunch of flavor in there. And other industries like food and like wine and like beer and cigars and distilleries, they celebrate that, right? They celebrate that diversity of flavors, that palate, that blending. And we haven't gotten there with cannabis yet. And I've missed that for a long time. I miss that sort of part of the wonderful experience that cannabis can be. And I think that that's sort of what I was looking for tonight, and he certainly delivered on that.
When people ask me hard questions, like when I did my Reddit AMA and it went to the front page of the internet, I answer those questions head on, and I don't shy away from anything hard, because ultimately everything is going to be out there. There's nothing that I can hide, and I may not know everything, but I absolutely work my ass off to try and know. I really love to see other people smile. I love to create something where other people can then utilize to create the life for themselves that they wanted. And we can have the opportunity to help so many people and really change how the world runs. So to me, that is so powerful and that's so energizing. I mean, I can't think of a better life to live than the one that I've created for myself. And I hope that inspires others to build the same for themselves.
From the bottom of my heart, to me, the cannabis industry is all about community and sharing and having this uprising of really putting your health back in your own hands. And what cannabis can accomplish is insurmountable. So thank you for joining me on this journey, and thank you guys for being here. It really is something special to me. Appreciate it.
Look!
There. Look at this one. Holy shit. Look at that next to my face. Ooh, he's been in a fight. Look at that.
A couple of legs.
Yeah, wow. So he's a tough one.
He's a baby giant Pacific octopus.
He's an aggressive hunter that gets fucked up. But either way, we're gonna put him back.
Just toss it over, watch him scoot away.
Whoa.
Oh, I yanked us.